Hi there, my name is Nathan Minahan. I'm here in Natal, Brazil. I'm taking a nice morning stroll along the Beira do Mar, the shoreline. And I'm thinking about all of the people that would love to become authors in the world. And, you know, I actually began my journey years ago. I'm not even sure when it began. I think it was with Wayne Dyer and his book, Manifest Your Destiny, that I first became inspired to be an author or a speaker, and really to share a message. And so over the years, I just became really inspired around the idea of telling stories of you know, I studied philosophy in college, and I always loved bringing ideas and concepts together and packaging them and communicating ideas. So naturally, over the years, I first and finally became an author in 2017, but it wasn't by accident. Actually, my journey began as an artisan. I was making leather journals in Argentina, and I had this idea that my journals could sort of spread a message about getting lost to find yourself, and about, you know, people. Basically, I had this logo for Walk and Talk, which is to ground yourself, propel through purpose, and expand into flow. And to communicate this message about living your life in flow, because from the state of flow, all amazing things happen. Health happens, wealth, happiness, joy flows out of flow. So, you know, the journey as an artisan, it taught me everything about basically making things physically, and then putting them up digitally, and then talking about them, communicating about them. And I spent a lot of time thinking, right? Because when you're making things by hand, I literally would spend hours and hours making these leather journals. And I guess, you know, one day, you know, I've been so inspired. I've been always love studying and listening to audiobooks. Just love audiobooks. I have 161 audiobooks on my Audible on my phone. And I don't just listen to them, I study them, I go back to them, and I think about the impact that these writers and these authors are making in the world, right? The multiplication of knowledge, of influence, and it's very powerful. You know, a lot of us are living different lives, and we have all this knowledge that we take for granted. We're walking around with it, and we're using it to lead a better life and to improve on our life, and we're breaking off and sharing different golden nuggets here and there with certain people. But, you know, it doesn't always occur to us that we could really share this knowledge, and that by sharing it, we could really have a more fulfilled life, you know? And so that, like Thoreau says, you know, I want to suck all the marrow out of life so as to not to come to my end of life and discover that I have not lived, or something like that, right? And that's what it is. It's sort of your guaranteed card that, you know, when you pass over to the other side, yep, passed on my knowledge. That's what writing a book really is. And it's one of those things. You can start a business, you know, you can, I don't know, create a t-shirt company, create a whatever company, right? The business can go out of business, or it can be taken care of or not taken care of after you pass. But a book, once it is published, it cannot be unpublished, right? The copyright is there. And especially when you put it on a place like Amazon, which we know is going to be around forever. So anyway, so there's some certainty, some guarantee for you. But really, that's not actually the point, right? So anyway, in 2017, I met this guy. I was getting on a train on a platform in Chicago. I had two 100-pound suitcases in my hands, and that's why I was taking the train and not flying to Rochester, New York, where I was going to an art festival to sell my journals. And this guy walks up to me. He says, "Hey, you look like an interesting character. I'd love to hear your life story." And I said, "What?" You know, it's midnight. Are you sure? Like, I know he wasn't trying to rob me, but it was a little bit forward, right? Well, this guy actually was sort of like this magical person, right? They say that in life, certain people will appear and open doors for you. This was the guy. So his name is Craig Collins. And shortly after, in the morning on the train, we drank some coffee together, and we started a conversation that did not stop. And it opened other conversations, and it led to me basically creating one of the coolest networks of people that I can imagine having in my life, which was facilitated by continuing that journey as an entrepreneur and as an author. My journey as an author really began when I actually I was selling journals on the street in Chicago behind a bicycle, and the guy walked by, bought a journal from me, gave me his card, and it said that he was an author and that he was a speaker. And I was trying to figure out, where am I going to learn how to become an author? Where am I going to learn how to become a speaker? And so I reached out to this guy, Dr. Darren Martin, and what did I do? He says, yes, Nathan, come to Dallas, right? So perfect stranger, never really met him before other than he bought a journal from me behind my bicycle in Chicago. He invites me to Dallas, picks me up at the airport. Ever been to Chipotle? Yes, been to Chipotle. We had a great time. We go to Chipotle, we go to his house. He brings in this whole group of people, and it was so awesome. Imagine a perfect stranger, nothing to gain. He just wanted to pass on his knowledge and his passion. He saw that I had passion to learn about this. And he was actually in the midst of publishing not 1, 2, but like 3 books in 1 year. He said, Nathan, I'm about to really, bring my brand to the next level. And at that state of my journey, I was just learning about branding. I was just learning about this whole journey of, telling your ideas and packaging your ideas into stories and books and products. And really the joy of and the fun of creating that and doing that. And so anyway, that was my first experience meeting a real author and speaker. And then my next one was Dr. Greg Reed. And so I met Greg through this guy on the train, Craig Collins, who had introduced me to people at Secret Knock, basically on Facebook. And I'd been brought into this whole group of people on Facebook, all these different people that were friends of each other. And I was off being my creative self, following my intuition, living in the flow, and making videos about wooden bicycles in Portugal and all these other exciting and interesting things I was working on. And Greg Reed saw one of these videos that I was doing of this bicycle, and he actually had a post, and it said, hey, if you're in my rear view and you want to be in my inner circle, message me. And so I said yes, right? And I said hello, hey, or whatever. He calls me up, makes me this deal, makes me this offer to donate a wooden bicycle to his conference for charity, and that he would put me on stage and it would change my life forever. And he was right. I donated the wooden bicycle. I went to the conference. I didn't just go there. I drove across the country with the wooden bicycle in my car from Chicago to California. I also made 200 leather journals and did everything he asked, right, and more. I was so enthusiastic to become an author and to learn about this and to have to take the opportunity to have that chance to meet those people that were doing that stuff that I always knew that I was meant to do, right? So when you want to be an author, there's often this feeling that you have inside that you're meant to do this. You're meant to write something, right? That's because we're all meant to share our stories and to share the golden nuggets in our life. And so anyway, I go to this conference, I get really inspired, and I'd already been writing these emails, weekly emails, but they were sort of like short stories and different ideas. I studied philosophy in college, and that basically my list of all the people that bought notebooks from me was kind of the place where I was telling these ideas and stories through. And so about 6 months later, I took all those stories and I packaged them into my first book, Stitch, The Artisan Entrepreneur. And that was my first book. Has a lot of information in it. If you ask me what it's about, I say it's an anthology, right, of different ideas. But it was only through the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth, the sixth, now the seventh, and pretty soon the 8th book that I really learned and mastered how a book, right, can help you to bring your entire essence, the journey that you lived, right? And basically in Italy, there's this famous statue of David, and someone had asked Leonardo da Vinci, like, how did he make David, right? It's a perfect statue, it's beautiful, it's huge, and you have to be very careful because he was chipping away the stone, right? The marble or whatever it's made out of. And he says, very easy. David was already inside of the block. I just took him out, right? And so we all have this whole journey, this entire, volumes of stories, of examples of different universal metaphorical ideas that just happen that you see, oh yeah, that's right, that thing. Yes, I've been through that too. And, and when you're having those philosophical conversations and you're sharing with people and you're connecting with them, it's because you're both talking about a similar intangible, right? And when you connect with somebody, there's something there. It's ethereal, it's tangible, but it's also intangible, right? But it becomes tangible when you turn it into concepts and put it into books, and then turn it into courses, and then turn it into basically a platform. So we all have this David inside of a block, right? Everyone is living, and that life is accumulating. So in philosophy, there's a branch of philosophy called the realm called phenomenology, which is really the essence of things, and it's the study of things from their essence, right? Because a lot of times we view things from our perspective, we don't view them from their essence. And so phenomenology talks about this idea of time not passing, but time accumulating, right? And in a phenomenon, right? There's this great guy, Jean-Luc Marion, and he's a contemporary amazing philosopher, and he says that time accumulates, right? And that when we go to an amazing event, right, when we go and have an experience, we create this saturation, right? This saturated phenomenon, this idea that we are so overwhelmed, you know, and you go to this concert and you wake up next day and say, oh my God, it was amazing, right? The person says, what do you mean? What happened? Well, the way they were playing and the music and the sound and the acoustics and the quality and the people all around me and the way they were dressed and everything like that, right? And you're like, what do you mean, right? Yeah, it was just amazing, right? Well, in that short, brief description, you didn't capture everything, right? But your excitement, right? All of that happened was an event. It was a saturated phenomenon, something you can't really put into words. So a lot of life, because there's so much of it and accumulation of it, becomes this sort of saturated phenomenon. And so how are these great books written, right? How do they just pop up out of nowhere, right? All these complex but simple and powerful and cunning and unique ideas, right? Where do they come from? Well, they are derived from the saturated phenomenon. Life is saturated. There's just so many wow moments in life. And if you've ever wanted to take that wow and turn it into a how or a now, right? Now you can, how to, whatever it is, you want to share your knowledge, you want to share your story, you want to share something that you intuitively know, but you're not sure how to express it, right? That is what happens through the process of being interviewed by our team. I'm the founder of Inspiration on Tap, and I'll tell you about where that name comes from. So a long time ago, I was at a family function, I won't say any more about it, and they said, Nate, oh, you're so talented, right? You know, it's you know, what are you gonna do with all this talent, you know? A lot of times artists and, you know, creative people are sort of mistaken at first. People don't quite see their value or understand how they're gonna make money, quote unquote, when they take the road less traveled. And I said, yes, thank you, you know, I know. I feel so much inspiration, you know? And in fact, I feel like sometimes I could be inspiration on tap for people. And when that name came out of my mouth, I said, oh my gosh, I'm gonna buy that domain, right? So this is like 2013 or 14. I bought inspirationontap.com, and a couple of years went by, or a year went by, and it lapsed, the domain lapsed, and it wasn't on auto renew. And I was so sad. It was right on my birthday. I found out that I had no longer had the name. I had to buy back the name on my birthday for $2,500, which to me at the time was so much money. And but I had bought it back. I knew that something great was destined to come from this name. I didn't know yet what it was, right? I didn't yet meet all of the people that were going to be my team at Inspiration on Tap. So today our team is all around the world. We mostly speak in Spanish together. I speak fluent Spanish from Argentina, from being an exchange student there in college. And basically, you know, we bring your ideas to life, right? So it started out as logos and business cards and websites and ideas and anything digital and bringing it to life. Video editing, you know, presentation building, anything that you need, right? And I have a very, very talented team. It's actually a family in Argentina, and they have now built out their team. So we have a whole network of amazing designers from around South America. And along the way, writing these books, there's a great client of mine, one of my very, very good friends, jerrylobozo.com, check him out. And he says to me, he said, well, first of all, I was at his house and he had made a business he had a business idea. We brought it to life. It was a very intangible, ethereal sort of idea. He wasn't quite sure how to structure it or brand it or make it. We made it, we created it for certain purposes. I can't tell you the name of it because he's kind of anonymous in the business. And we created it, and it has made him a very good living, and it's a real success story because it's with that business that then he was able to then work with us and do his next thing, which is his book. So in the first times I went over to his house and was actually making him suits for a wedding. And as you know, I'm the founder of Big Murphy's, the custom suit company. And we lay it out on the kitchen table. He says that if you have Nathan over, he'll lay it out on the kitchen table. And that's what I did, right? I brought over a couple of my books, my fabric books, and talked to him about branding, around this idea of crafting a narrative, first with your clothing, and framing moments and creating possibilities, framing conversations that you would like to have with people, with friends, with clients, right? Create that interesting conversation that you want to frame, that you want to happen, right? Let's build it into the clothes. Let's build it into the little embroideries instead of on your shirt sleeve, which this is, by the way, I'm in Natal, Brazil, so I'm trying to be very under the radar. So I'm not wearing anything custom. And instead of on your shirt cuff, writing like your initials, what we do, we created an acronym, right? So in my case, I do MNSP, Make No Small Plans. A lot of my clients, we have all different things that they do, right? I have this Marine who is also the bodyguard for Ronald Reagan, and he has DHTP, which is don't have that problem. And it came from when Ronald Reagan would ask, in life we have to ask ourselves if we've made a difference at the end of it. And he says that Marines don't have that problem. So DHTP, and I only, hearing this guy's life story, I was able to help him derive, what it is that makes him tick. What is it that fills him up with so much excitement, enthusiasm, love, joy? Why is he inspired to go around blessing people in the ways that he does? He's a really interesting person, this gentleman, both Jerry and this other gentleman, Dave. And, so instead of initials, we create acronyms, right? And those acronyms often lead to a question. People are at an event, they wonder, what does this mean? What does this stand for, And it opens this conversation. Then you find out, oh, he was in the Marines, or he was a bodyguard to Ronald Reagan, or he did all this different stuff, right? So I have another client who has a charity, and he's pretty shy. And so we put, it was a charity for breast cancer. So we put, pink stitching in a lot of his jackets and his clothes and little accents. And so that he's easily able to talk about his charity. We also print his garments with different things in the custom lining. So now this is called framing possibility. This is called creating conversation. So we do that with clothes, and that's kind of where I started at night of laying everything out on the table with Jerry. And he says to me, well, one day, Nathan, you're gonna write my book. I'm like, okay, I'll figure it out. I'm not sure how yet, because the time I was driving around the country and building my suit business, and so time goes on, and Jerry's business grows and different things happen, and we have these ideas, we realize that it's time to write Jerry's book, and he wanted to do it. So we end up writing the most amazing book. It's called Speak for Yourself. You go to jerrylabozo.com, you can find it. You can easily also Google Speak for Yourself, 7 powerful ways to speak up, shut up, and show up. Now, Jerry's a voiceover actor, right? So we started to think, how can we take all of this inspiration, this creativity that Jerry has inside of him, right? And how can we mine the gold in his story and turn it into a book that can communicate this amazing wisdom and these truths that he's discovered in his life in an easy and effortless way? And how can it be universal, really relatable to people around the world and of different demographics and ages and backgrounds? And so we did that. It took us about 5 months from concept to completion. And now you can get it today on Amazon, you can get it on Audible, you can get the ebook. And we also have an online course about it. So Jerry is now able to accept speaking engagements. He's able to go to them with confidence. He's able to offer people that are there in the audience to buy his course. And he's able to print his books and his influence and on demand, right? If somebody wants to do him a favor, hey, buy some of my books, right? He has this special thing, right, that has preserved his legacy, and which he can leverage over and over and over. Now, the funny thing is, you would think that after doing one book, a course, an audiobook, and all that must be involved with that, you would think that he's good, right? Now he can relax. No. No. In fact, he was ready right away to write his second book. And not just a second book, but he decided that he had another one. So we're doing actually 2 books at once. So you think, wow, Nathan, how do you write 2 books at once, right? Again, I have a wonderful team, amazing team of dedicated ghostwriters. Currently, we just have a couple, really. So we're not outsourcing to places and people that we don't know. I'm talking about dedicated writers, people that I know, that I have coffee with, that I have pizza with, that I joke around with. We're a team, we're a family. We have a great chemistry and a very unique touch when it comes to formulating ideas, and a very unique system for bringing these ideas to fruition, mining them from your story. And so if you're somebody who is basically at a part of your life where, when your birthday comes around and somebody says to you, what do you want? You say, I have everything. I don't really need anything, right? Well, if you're at that kind of part of your life, right, you might be wondering, what else is there left to do? Now, in Spanish, they say that I speak a lot of Portuguese. Na vida, I'll say it in Portuguese right now. Na vida, cada pessoa tem que plantar uma árvore, fazer filho, e escrever livro. It means that every person must, in their life, plant a tree, have a child, and write a book. So, maybe you've had a child. Maybe you want to go plant a tree. Any day you can just plant a tree, right? Take a seed and throw an apple in the forest or whatever. But how do you write a book, right? That's the question. And I think that through the story I'm telling you, you might start realizing why you might like to write a book. Now, let me tell you a couple other things that have happened since we've written this first book for Jerry. Well, a lot of people called him up and said, dude, you're a published author? What? When did this happen, right? Yeah, right? And people reading his book, man, I'm so impressed. I cannot believe, I didn't know you did all that stuff in your life, right? Neither did I, right? Thank you. It's been overwhelming, the reception of his book, the people calling him, and we talk about traveling with intention in this, my whole life I've traveled with intention. And when you do things with intention, you go on a trip. When you write a book, it's like taking a trip. You really have to dedicate yourself. It's going to be a 3 to 6 month project, and you're beginning a journey, right? And so the person that begins the journey is not the person that ends the journey. It's a person that has transformed, and that's what happens as you write your book. You really transform. So Jerry, all these people calling him and noticing him in a new way. Well, what do you think happens? He's getting noticed in a different way. And it's not just exposure for his business or whatever, but it's satisfying. It's like knowing that, wow, you have literally, like a sponge, wrung the sponge and dropped all that amazing inspiration from your life and put it somewhere that is preserved forever, right? And you know that without lifting another finger or having another conversation, that a lot of the amazing wisdom that's come to you through life, that's flowed through you, that's flowed through your experiences, that's flowed through your stories, that it's there, right? That it's there on paper, it's there in audio, it's there, and it's that's what it means to write a book. So not only that, his whole family is now very excited about this. Think about that. Your family, your network, your community, the people that you spend time with, they're all excited that you just wrote a book. So it really creates this momentum factor, and it can be a climax and a catalyst for really a new chapter in your life and something amazing to happen. So I really believe that if you believe that amazing things will happen for you, they truly will. And if you're tired of something, anything at all, take a trip, right? Take a trip, travel with intention, get clarity, and decide. Decide that you're going to share something with the world, right? How many people get to the end of their life and they have not planned certain things that they wish they did? They ran out of time, right? That little sand, what's it called? The hourglass of time, right? Those pieces of sand, those little, pieces of sand. It's so funny. I speak Portuguese, Spanish, and almost every single day, and English, and sometimes Czech. So sorry, my English sometimes. But they start running out, and I don't believe that this is the end, but in this life, we get a chance to plant certain seeds, to create, complete, to forge certain things. And not that we need to become attached to our influence or to what our life means or what we did, but if you think about different things that are worth your time, right? If you get to the end of your life and you have a book that you've written, you feel like you've shared your wisdom, you've shared your knowledge, you've shared your love, you've shared your story, then, that's nice peace of mind, right? That was worth your time, right? If you even affected or inspired one person with that whole thing that you did, that was worth your time, right? Now imagine, I'm actually in Natal, Brazil. So the other day, I'm out at a cafe and I meet this young girl, and she knew who this one author, Greg Reed, right? Greg Reed, that was one of my first mentors, and he's the author of like 40 some books. He's become he's written the foreword of a few different of my books, and he's been a huge influence and a huge inspiration in my life. Now, I'm in Natal, Brazil, which is this tiny town in the north of Brazil, and somebody here, actually two people that I have spoken with, know who he is. He's everywhere. How is he everywhere? Because his books are everywhere. And they're not just in English, they're in Portuguese, they're in Italian, they're in Spanish, they're in lots of languages. So you don't know who you're inspiring. And that right there sounds like, to me, that it's something worth doing. So if you're at that point in your life and you're wondering what's next, it might be time to write your first book. And don't be surprised, after we write the first one, you may just realize that creativity, that inspiration on tap, that tap of inspiration might just open, and this deluge of other inspiring ideas will come, All of a sudden, you didn't think you wanted to travel anymore? Now here you are traveling. Didn't think you were going to meet another person in your life, fall in love again? You did, right? All of these things. Life is perennial. Love is perennial. Writing is perennial. Knowledge, wisdom, it's all perennial. And the more you give it away, you can never give it away because it comes back multiplied. So if you're wondering how to do all this, if you want to work personally with me, personally with myself, with my team, and we're very, very generous with our time, we are your boutique firm to do this for you, okay? And you will retain all of the rights to your book, to your course, to everything. We build it from scratch, we hand it over to you, and then if you want us to help you continue to manage it or do anything with it, we do that for a very reasonable price, okay? I hope that you enjoyed this video. Thank you very much for watching it to the end. And if you're ready to transform your life, become an author. Because it's like when you become a parent or you become any profession, right? Once you publish this book, you're becoming something new. You're becoming an author, okay? Author to be, that's what it is. Take care. So to be or not to be, like Shakespeare says. Ciao.